I really should have known better. I really should have known better than to type into Google to find this track. I should have known better than to type between the thighs. I got a definition. Never even heard. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys are having a fantastic one out there. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for just being here. I learned something today. I learned there was a... Never mind. That's not what this channel is about. Today we're listening... I'm so sorry. We're listening to a weather report. We're going to listen to this track, Between the Thighs. This is off of their album, Tails Spinnin', released in 1975, their fifth studio album that we're checking out here. I've never heard of this album. I've never, off the top of my head, it absolutely could have been recommended or mentioned at a certain point, but I don't recall ever seeing this album mentioned in the comments or anything, but we're going to go ahead and dive into this one. We're listening to this because it was suggested and it was sponsored by Joe. Joe, thank you so much for the recommendation. Thank you for the support as well. I appreciate that. And I see that this one has also been suggested by It's Helium, UKNL Productions, Andre Knox, Sid Hedanu. Hold on, I got a few of you. It's Helium, you've actually recommended this one for quite a while. And for quite a while, I mean 5 years, you've recommended this track. And you said they're not standards, but they're far more interesting. I'm happily ready to dive into this one. And yes, there's a couple of you. You know who you are. There's more jazz on the channel. Listen, I'll make a whole jazz week. You kidding me? I'll bring Oscar Peterson. We'll listen to Night Train or whatever the album I listened to last week. We'll do a full album. I love it. You want Night Train? You don't think I'll do it? Listen, jazz is a genre I grew up with. I'll listen to this all day. All right, let's go ahead and Between the Thighs. Here we go. Toy box there. That's a nice sound right there. I love the extra percussion around. Sourdough always has the most interesting synths. like a playground of sound. There's so much happening. That percussion adds such a lot of color. Man, they brought that down nice. Love how the bass just ripples. That change on the bass. The percussive sounds so natural in the environment. There's that main groove coming back to round it all up. smooth sax line to move it along at this point too. Big. Walking that bass now. You know, this song starts off kind of like hot. Like it starts off with like just so many different sounds. Like once it gets going in that beginning part, it goes into so many different directions. It's like they reach into a toy box and they just start like they're just reaching. It's just like kids in a frenzy. Wow, new toys, and they're going at it, pulling out the robot, pulling out the Hot Wheels, pulling out the Barbie dolls, like everything. And then once they got it all out, then they one at a time kind of start to play around with the toys and start to make fun with the sounds. That's how the band sounded here to me. Because the beginning, like it was just everything was happening on a first listen. Maybe it's not so much happening when if I listen to it again, but like on a first listen, there's a lot happening in the beginning. And especially with Zawinul, like his particular way of playing the synth and his tones, it always brings this to me, this almost, I don't want to say childlike, but like a kid is just playing with toys. His sounds are both like, you know, serious, but they can be incredibly creative and kind of off the wall, kind of silly, but always adding a lot of color into the music. And the beginning, he's really, to me, pulling out all those toys when he brings out his synth and the way he plays there, which I think is cool. It's very colorful and progressive. But then once all the toys are out of the box, then we can actually begin to engage and play with each one of them. And that's when the song like really kind of like tempers off and cools down for me. And I mean that in a good way. Like it cools down in a cool way. So like I really enjoy like what happens more so after they collectively, and so to speak, like pull out the toys and get to playing. Shorter on the saxophone is always a joy to listen to. All of them are always a joy to listen to. But I really love the percussion. And I want to make a specific statement about the percussion. That's Oliverio Lima, percussion specifically, and then Leon Chancellor on the drums. I love how the percussion actually plays a part in the environment of the song and in the soundscape of everything. It's not just performed in the background to keep the rhythm going in a particular way. And while that is, of course, beautiful, I love a percussionist. I like that a lot. And there are times when, of course, he's doing that. But I love how there's, to me, an environment that's being built around with the percussion. There's little sounds that he'll come up with, like whether it's him, you know, shaking a shaker or hitting a wood block or all the other little details that we hear in the music. It makes me think of being out in nature and hearing the cicadas singing, or, you know, the bullfrogs croaking and whatever other sounds are happening in that particular environment. I'm getting a very similar thing here with how he almost creates this nature-like sound within the, so to speak, chaos of the music that's happening. And I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was such a cool thing, how you can so at the forefront and audibly hear what he's doing, but it sounds so perfectly in line with this particular environment that's being built. I just really wanted to make specific mention of Mr. Lima. Alfonso on the bass. This whole thing was just a good listen to hear. And I love how they trade off so well after the beginning, because like I said, that's like so video game sound. This is just pulling everything out. I can't catch the rhythm. It's just like kids at a frenzy. But once you cool down, then you start to like around. I love this kind of like exuberant jazzy bits here. The shorter just screaming out there. Zawano cooling down some chords here. Like, it brings a certain kind of excitement, right? And this was just a really fantastic moment from Alfonso. Like, I like the bombast. I like the way that they do that. But when you have a band like, I think, Weather Report in this case, that they do the bombast in such a colorful and flair kind of way, that when you hear them coming down into something like this, the way they approach it is different. And they still keep that fire on, but it's just turned down, but still keeping a certain intensity. Because even when they're playing like this, there's an intensity that's still being brewed behind here. Listen to that. Like, even those little sounds, that's probably Zawano doing that. I don't think that's percussionist. But like, you hear what I mean? Like, it's those little, almost like a near cicada that kind of goes off in the background. The ending was really cool, how they brought back that main melody from the beginning, but this time using it as a climax. And the drums like go off like a cannon. Here at one point. Is that a loosened snare or a loosened light timpani? I don't know. The bum 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 bum. I can't tell if that's the percussionist Lima or not, but I don't know. It's such a cool song though. That's how he walks that bass. And see the bubbling brook next to you with the percussion. This is kind of like what am I thinking? You know, sometimes we'll listen to a prog rock song that's, let's just pretend it's like 5 minutes, and they go through like a menagerie of riffs and they just sprinkle that together. This feels like something like that, in the sense of, I feel like there's so many ideas that are being put out and laid down here. And in a 9-minute track, I almost still feel like they didn't get every single idea that they wanted down. It feels not crowded in a bad way, crowded in a good way. It doesn't feel like too much. It feels like it needs more, and like it leaves me wanting more. And I guess at the end of the day, like that's a great thing to leave the audience, to leave myself at wanting more from Between the Thighs. Oh. Let me know what you guys thought of the track, of course, in the comments down below. I appreciate you, as always, watching. Joe, thank you so much for the suggestion. Thank you so much for the support. I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your day. Please come back tomorrow, and perhaps I'll see you then. Bye, guys.